All right, welcome back everybody to the deep dive. We've got a fascinating one today. We're talking all about cutting through the noise and making your message really connect.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack this, we're drawing on some pretty amazing material from Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this framework has helped a lot of businesses refine how they communicate, and some pretty big names back it.
Yeah. You got folks like Seth Godin, Ken Blanchard, even John C. Maxwell, Dave Ramsey, Ryan Desa. They're all saying this stuff matters.
And when those guys are all nodding in agreement, you kind of got to pay attention.
Absolutely. This is like your cheat sheet for figuring out why some ideas take off while others just flop. We're going to really dig into what Miller's saying, pull out those core principles so you guys listening can nail your messaging and dodge those common traps.
Love it. So Miller, right off the bat, he points out this big obstacle, this noise that any business is up against when they're trying to get their message out there.
Yeah.
And he makes this interesting point. A lot of this noise isn't just the world being busy, it's the confusion businesses themselves create with their own marketing.
Oh, yeah. It's like trying to shout over yourself.
Exactly.
And the reason it doesn't work, Miller brings in Science Mike McHargue, who basically says a lot of marketing fails because it's just too darn complex. It's like our brains are wired for simplicity.
Yeah, McHargue, he has this brilliant way of putting it. He calls story a sense-making mechanism. It's how our brains are naturally organized to process information without having to, like, work overtime.
Think of it like trying to follow a recipe. If it's clear and step by step, you're good. But if it's just ingredients thrown at you, forget it.
Right. So this brings us to what Miller sees as two really big mistakes that brands often make. And the first one, not focusing on what truly drives people, which is survival and thriving. He argues that all those stories we really connect with, the ones that stick, they tap into this very basic human need.
Right. And that could be anything from physical well-being, like staying healthy, to emotional security, good relationships, even that sense of purpose we're all looking for.
He goes on to break down those core desires that really grab our attention, like the need for safety, right? The need to grow, to belong, to have strong connections, to become the best versions of ourselves, and to feel like we're part of a community that supports us.
And if your marketing doesn't tap into at least one of these core desires, Miller's saying it's just not going to resonate.
Yeah, it's like it's missing that essential hook.
And here, he uses this really cool analogy of a ballroom. Imagine you're in this huge room full of chairs. Now, you're not going to walk in and start counting the chairs. All right.
Probably not now.
But you will immediately know where the exits are.
But
Why? Because the exits matter for survival. It's instinct. If your brand focuses on its internal stuff, its own goals and backstory, you're fixated on the chairs. Customers are always scanning for those exits, for what you offer that helps them survive and thrive in their own lives.
that's so true. And that brings us to the second big mistake that Miller highlights. Making your customers burn too many calories mentally trying to understand what you offer.
Right. It's like, here's a Rubik's Cube, figure it out, and then you'll know what we do.
Yeah, it's way too much work.
Our brains are wired to conserve energy. Too much information, especially if it's confusing, goes against that whole instinct.
It's exhausting.
Exactly. So if even you have to wade through jargon or super complicated explanations to get what a brand is all about, chances are people are just going to tune out and find something easier.
Makes total sense. So we've talked about the problem, the noise, the confusion. We've looked at those two big missteps, not focusing on core needs and making the message too hard to grasp. What's the solution?
Well, Miller really makes a case for story. And story's powerful here because it cuts through that noise. It's not just entertainment. It's how our brains are wired to make sense of things.
Yeah, it's like those patterns, those familiar structures in stories. Our brains are already programmed to understand them, to follow along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes processing information so much easier. Miller even jokes that he can't watch movies the same way anymore because he sees the formula so clearly. But that predictability, that's what keeps people engaged.
Think about it, right? Most stories, from, I don't know, ancient myths to the latest superhero flick, they all follow pretty similar patterns.
And that brings us to the heart of Miller's approach, the SB7 framework. This is the basic structure that he argues underlies pretty much every good story and therefore every really effective marketing message.
So it goes like this. There's a character, and that's you, the customer who wants something. But there's a problem that's stopping you from getting it. Things are looking tough, but then a guide steps in, and that's the brand offering a plan and calling you to take action.
If you follow that plan, you avoid failure, and ultimately you achieve success. It's like a universal story blueprint.
And you see it everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Take the Hunger Games. Katniss, she's the character, and she desperately wants to survive those games. That's her problem. Haymitch, he's the guide, and he gives her a plan to win over the public. That's the plan. And he's always pushing her to strategize, to take action.
Right, and by taking action, she avoids certain death, which is the failure, and she ultimately wins the success.
Perfect example. Or look at Star Wars, A New Hope. You've got Luke Skywalker, the character. He wants to defeat the Empire. That's his problem. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, he comes in as the guide, offering Jedi training the plan and urging Luke to join the rebellion.
Right, which helps prevent the Empire's total control. It's the failure they're trying to avoid, and it leads to the destruction of the Death Star's success.
And the point here is, when a brand's message strays too far from this basic story structure, you get confusion. You get that noise we were talking about.
Yeah, because as a customer, you don't know what your role is in the story, or if there even is a story.
Exactly. And that's where Miller's grunt test comes in.
Love this one.
It's so simple, but so powerful. He says, anyone looking at your marketing should be able to answer 3 basic questions in, like, 5 seconds.
5 seconds, that's it.
What do you offer? How will it make my life better? And what do I need to do to get it?
The grunt test, could a caveman understand it?
Exactly. That's how clear it needs to be. If your message needs paragraphs of explanation, you've probably failed the grunt test, and you're losing people who just don't have time to decipher what you're all about.
Okay, so we've got that basic story framework.
Yeah.
Now let's dig into each element of the SB7, see how they make that clarity happen. And first up, we've got the customer is the hero.
This is where a lot of businesses trip up. They want to be the hero of their own story.
It's natural. You're excited about what you do.
Right. But Miller's really clear. That's a mistake. Your customers, they are the heroes of their own stories, and the brand is there to guide them.
So you, as the customer, you want something. Defining that desire, that's what creates the story and gets you invested.
Exactly. And he suggests starting with one clear desire and linking it back to this idea of survival. And survival here, it's not always literal.
Right. It's broader than that.
It's about those core needs: safety, health, happiness, strength, having the resources you need.
So things like saving money, having more time, building strong relationships, earning respect, those all fit under this survival umbrella.
Even that urge to be generous, to give back, it's tied to being part of a thriving community, which is important for survival.
Think about Walmart's slogan, save money, live better. That's about conserving financial resources, which is a big part of survival for a lot of folks.
Absolutely. Or take a meal delivery service that promises you more time to spend with family. You're saving time and nurturing those important relationships.
And Miller really stresses how crucial it is for you, the customer, to know where the brand wants to take you.
What's the destination? Is it financial security, better health, deeper connections? If you can't see that clearly, their message is probably muddled.
Okay, so next up in the framework, the customer has a problem. Now, businesses often talk about the external problems they solve, the practical issues.
Right, like our product fixes this.
But Miller argues that as customers, we're more driven by those internal problems, the frustrations, how those external problems make us feel.
This is where he gets really insightful, breaking problems down into 3 levels.
Yeah.
External, internal, philosophical.
Could break that down.
So the external is the practical thing. Your car's broken, you need a mechanic.
Okay, easy enough.
But the internal problem is the feeling it creates. Maybe it's stress because you rely on your car. Maybe it's feeling lost, not knowing who to trust.
Oh, I see.
And then the philosophical problem, that's the bigger why behind the whole struggle.
Give me an example.
So Apple, back in the day, they got that while they were selling computers, that's the external, their commenter, their customers often felt intimidated by technology.
Right, like I don't know how to use this stuff.
Exactly. And Apple's marketing spoke to that feeling, that need to feel empowered, and like tech wasn't scary.
Okay, I'm seeing the layers here.
Or think about CarMax. In the used car world, there's always been trust issues. So they tackled that internal fear of getting ripped off by offering no haggle pricing and being super transparent.
Interesting.
Or even Starbucks. They're selling coffee, right? But they also offer that comfortable, kind of sophisticated vibe.
That's true. It's like, this is my spot.
It taps into that internal need to belong, to treat yourself. And when brands can hit all 3 levels of problems, the practical, the emotional, and the philosophical, that's where the magic happens.
Okay, so we've got the customer as the hero facing a problem.
Yeah.
And the brand is there to guide them.
Yep. But here's where a lot of brands mess up. They want to be the hero themselves.
They want the spotlight.
Exactly. But Miller's clear on this. That's a huge mistake. Heroes need guides. If the brand is the hero, it's competing with the customer.
And the customer already sees themselves as the hero of their own life.
Right. The key is to position the customer as Luke Skywalker and your brand as Yoda, the wise mentor.
Love that.
And to be that effective guide, a brand needs to show two things: empathy and authority.
Okay, unpack those.
So empathy means showing you get it. You understand the challenges your customers are facing. That builds trust. Like, think about a politician talking about a big, complex issue. If they can connect that to a personal story, someone in the audience struggling with that exact thing, that's empathy.
It makes it real.
Or a company that has customer service messaging that acknowledges those frustrating moments when things go wrong, that shows they're listening.
But empathy's not enough, right?
No, a good guide also needs authority. That's about competence, trustworthiness. It's not about being arrogant, but about showing you've got the experience and the know-how to help the customer succeed.
It's that I gotcha feeling.
Exactly. There's actually research on this. When we meet someone new, we're subconsciously sizing them up. Can we trust this person? Do they know what they're talking about? And that trust, which comes from empathy, usually has to come first before that sense of authority really clicks.
Okay, so we've got empathy, authority. The guide is established. What's next?
The guide gives them a plan. This is where the brand lays out that clear, easy-to-follow path to take action.
Because making a decision, especially a big purchase, can feel risky.
Oh, yeah. You're looking for that roadmap that takes away the guesswork. A good plan removes confusion and builds confidence.
Miller actually has this great line, if you confuse, you lose. And that's so true. If you don't offer a clear plan, you're basically creating a reason for customers to walk away.
Plans can take different forms. You might have a process plan, like 3 to 6 steps to follow.
Easy, digestible.
Or you could have an agreement plan, where the brand clearly states what they promise. Think of things like money-back guarantees or really straightforward pricing.
Like no hidden fees, this is what you get.
Exactly. The goal is to eliminate uncertainty, make it easy to see yourself taking that next step.
Okay, so the plan's in place. What then?
Well, then the plan calls them to action. The brand needs to invite the customer to actually take that next step.
It sounds obvious.
It is, but Miller highlights how many companies miss this. They don't give clear calls to action.
They assume people will just know what to do.
Right. But if you're interested in something, you need to know how to get it.
Like, here's where you sign up, or click this button to learn more.
Exactly. He talks about direct calls to action, like buy now or schedule a consultation, and then transitional calls to action.
Okay, what are those?
Those are about deepening the relationship, like offering a free guide in exchange for your email address.
Like those checklists you see everywhere.
Exactly. They offer value, show expertise, and create that natural next step in the interaction.
Got it. So now we're getting to the good stuff, the stakes of this story. The action helps them avoid failure. Every great story has something to be gained or lost.
Totally. As customers, we need to see the consequences of not taking action. Like those public service announcements, they highlight the risks of, I don't know, not wearing your seatbelt or something.
Yeah, they're showing you what you stand to lose.
And this connects to this idea of loss aversion that psychologists talk about. As humans, we're often more driven by fear of losing something we already have than by the possibility of gaining something new, even if it's of equal value.
So highlighting what you might miss out on by not engaging with a brand, that can be a powerful motivator.
Big time. Miller even breaks down this fear appeal process into 4 steps. First, make people aware of a vulnerability.
Like, hey, this could happen to you.
Second, suggest something they can do about it. Then, present your product or service as the specific solution. And finally, challenge them to take that action. He does warn against going overboard with the fear, though. A little bit goes a long way.
Right, you don't want to scare people off completely.
So the question is, what are your customers trying to avoid? Losing money? Health problems? Missed opportunities?
A decline in their quality of life, maybe. Like, a financial advisor might point out the risks of not having a good retirement plan or not diversifying investments.
Perfect example. And then finally, we get to the resolution. The end results in success. You need to define what success actually looks like for the customer after they engage with the brand.
Paint that picture for them.
Be specific. Show them the happy ending.
Like those weight loss programs that show the before and after photos.
Exactly. Or Miller mentions this tool called the before and after grid. It helps you visualize the transformation. How will their life look? How will they feel? What will their average day be like? What's their new status?
It's about taking them on that journey.
And he talks about these three main ways that stories tend to end, and they all connect back to those core human desires. Achieving power and status, finding that sense of wholeness or union, or realizing your full potential.
So think about brands with loyalty programs or exclusive tiers that's playing to that desire for status.
Right. Or products that promise to simplify your life, bring that feeling of completeness. And then you've got campaigns that are all about self-acceptance or helping you reach your goals that taps into self-realization.
So many different ways to approach it.
And the key is to consistently show how your brand makes the customer's life better. Not just talking about features, but demonstrating the positive impact.
Miller highlights companies like Dave Ramsey and Ramsey Solutions as examples here.
Yeah, Ramsey's brilliant at that. He puts his audience front and center. They're the heroes on this journey to financial freedom. He's the guide, offering a plan, celebrating their successes.
And all these elements of the SB7 framework, they need to be carried through all your brand touchpoints.
Absolutely. Miller talks about the website, specifically that first impression, what you see above the fold. It needs to clearly promise how you'll help the customer reach their goals or solve their problems. And those calls to action need to be crystal clear.
He also brings up this interesting idea of the narrative void.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's when different departments in a company aren't all on the same page about the story they're telling.
So it's confusing, even internally.
Exactly. And that leads to disengaged employees, less productivity, and ultimately a worse experience for the customer. But when everyone's aligned around a central narrative based on the story brand framework, things run smoother.
Everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Exactly. And finally, Miller gives a quick overview of the story brand marketing roadmap.
This takes the framework and turns it into action, right?
Exactly. Key steps like creating a one-liner for your company that captures the essence of the framework.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Then you've got creating lead generators to build your audience, setting up email sequences to nurture those leads, sharing customer success stories, and putting a system in place for referrals.
Awesome. Okay, so let's bring it all home. The big takeaways from our deep dive into building a story brand. It all boils down to clarity.
Clarity, clarity, clarity.
You have to position your customer as the hero. Understand what they want, what problems they face, what success looks like for them, and your brand. You're the guide on that journey.
Offer a clear plan, a compelling call to action.
Or get rid of any confusion.
That noise is the enemy.
Exactly. And by understanding and applying these principles, you can communicate more effectively, connect with your customers on a deeper level, and really see your business grow.
There are tons of success stories from companies that have embraced this framework. It really works.
And on that note, here's something to think about. Take a look at how your own work or company is communicating right now. Are you clearly putting your audience in that hero position? Are you showing them a clear path to reach their goals? What noise can you cut out to let their story really shine through? We encourage you to dive deeper into the story brand framework. It's a super practical and powerful tool to achieve that clarity.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for diving deep with us, everybody. We'll catch you next time. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. We've got a fascinating one today. We're talking all about cutting through the noise and making your message really connect.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack this, we're drawing on some pretty amazing material from Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this framework has helped a lot of businesses refine how they communicate, and some pretty big names back it.
Yeah. You got folks like Seth Godin, Ken Blanchard, even John C. Maxwell, Dave Ramsey, Ryan Day. They're all saying this stuff matters.
And when those guys are all nodding in agreement, you kind of got to pay attention.
Absolutely. This is like your cheat sheet for figuring out why some ideas take off while others just flop. We're going to really dig into what Miller's saying, pull out those core principles so you guys listening can nail your messaging and dodge those common traps.
Love it. So Miller, right off the bat, he points out this big obstacle, this noise that any business is up against when they're trying to get their message out there.
Yeah.
And he makes this interesting point. A lot of this noise isn't just the world being busy, it's the confusion businesses themselves create with their own marketing.
Oh, yeah. It's like trying to shout over yourself.
Exactly.
And the reason it doesn't work, Miller brings in Science Mike McHargue, who basically says a lot of marketing fails because it's just too darn complex. It's like our brains are wired for simplicity.
Yeah, McHargue, he has this brilliant way of putting it. He calls story a sense-making mechanism. It's how our brains are naturally organized
Yep.
to process information without having to, like, work overtime.
Think of it like trying to follow a recipe. If it's clear and step by step, you're good. But if it's just ingredients thrown at you, forget it.
Right. So this brings us to what Miller sees as two really big mistakes that brands often make. And the first one, not focusing on what truly drives people, which is survival and thriving. He argues that all those stories we really connect with, the ones that stick, they tap into this very basic human need.
Right. And that could be anything from physical well-being, like staying healthy, to emotional security, good relationships.